Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Birmingham Planning Board for Wednesday, December 10, 2025. Could we please call the roll?
Rob Klein. Robin Boyle.
Here.
Rick Jeffries.
Here.
Art Kozak. Daniel Scher.
Here.
Janelle Whipple-Boyce.
Here.
Brian Williams.
Here.
Duncan Curry.
Here.
Naseem Romin.
Here.
Carter Anderson. Olivia Batanzos.
Thank you. For purpose of this meeting, both Duncan and Naseem are going to be voting members. So we have a quorum of 7 and we'll proceed. The first item is review and approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 12, 2025. Are there any comments? And if not, could I have a motion to approve? Comments?
No comments. Move to approve the minutes of November 12, 2025 as presented.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right. Second by Ms. Whipple-Boyce. Any comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
My comments, this is a little bit of a mixed metaphor meeting. I would like to suggest that we move the pre-application discussion for 34952 Woodward, which is item L1, up ahead of the study session so that they can make a presentation and not have to sit around for a couple hours waiting for our deliberations, if that's acceptable to the board. Okay. So we will proceed with the zoning ordinance update after we complete the pre-app discussion of 34952 Woodward. Ms. Soroki, you're here. You want to stand up and tell us what you know?
I will. I'm going to ask Sam Beznos, who is one of the owners of Beznos, the Beztech company, to speak first, and then I'll give him.
Okay.
If that's okay.
So introduce yourself.
Sure.
Name.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Beznos. I'm the CEO of the Beztech companies, and appreciate you taking the time today and hear a little bit about our project, and very interested in hearing your comments as well. And by the way, thank you for moving up the schedule. So I'm here with Zach Weiss, our Assistant Vice President of Development and Acquisitions, and you guys know the Soroki team, Victor and Alex. So for those of you who don't know, Beztech is almost I think it's about 70-year family business based in Michigan, and we have offices in Florida as well that focus on apartments and senior living developments. And we also are the owner of the All Seasons communities in Birmingham, just almost behind this project as well. So just a little bit of background on us. We have about 30,000 units that we own or manage, and we also have a portfolio of commercial properties, and we operate in 14 different states. We're long-term holders of real estate. We have some properties that we've owned since the late 60s, 70s, so we have a very long-term view on real estate, and planning and operations is something we specialize in, and we think about, certainly because of the duration of the asset that we plan on owning long-term. I know this project in particular, we're very excited to be here today on. I personally tried to develop this property for the last 10 years, and I know there's been others before us that have worked on some plans, so I know you guys are familiar with the site and some of the challenges of this site, but we believe we're the right developer for that. Certainly, our approach to developing real estate is not just to stick a building on a site and see if it works. We really roll up our sleeves, and we have every project that we develop is completely different. So this project in particular is challenging, and we have a lot of great ideas that we think for this development to really enhance the Birmingham community, knowing that it's a very prominent piece of property and prominent in the city of Birmingham. So we look forward to hearing from your comments. As I said, we believe that, we have the capabilities to take this through. This is certainly not the biggest project we've ever developed, and it's something that, as a private company, who primarily invests these things ourselves, and it's a project that we want to have in the family for a long term. So anyways, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Victor and Alex to talk about the project, and of course be around here if you have any questions for me or on the project or for Zach. So thank you, and look forward to hearing everything.
Thank you, Sam. Victor Soroki, I'm here with my son Alex. Nick, if it's okay, maybe we can put up just the cover sheet even. Here for.
This is what I have as the first.
That's fine.
Yep.
So obviously we are Soroki Architecture, and we're very excited to be here and excited to present another unique opportunity and a big opportunity for the city. And that is for the development in the southeast corner of Woodward and Maple. By the way, we were also a family-owned business, 43 years, not as long as them, but we're doing okay. And so I just thought that was nice that he said that. I know you've seen the package. I think the city sent it out to you in advance, so I'm sure you've had a chance to maybe just flip through the deck, and we'll give kind of a brief overview, then go through the deck as well. Obviously, this is a proposal for a 9-story mixed-use building. We have 2 floors of underground parking. So on the lowest floor, B2 we call it, we got about 152 cars. On B1, we've got 157 cars. The first floor is a very tall retail space, and the retail fronts on both Woodward and Maple, along with some building lobbies. And then behind that retail space, we've got 2 more levels of parking hidden on the inside corner. And I think what's notable to say is none of the parking is going to be visible from any of the streets. It is all hidden within the building. So from the building facades and the exterior, we've worked very hard with the whole team to make sure that we had building frontages, not just parking levels and parking decks. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the parking behind the retail spaces, but what's also important to know is we do all want a tall retail first floor, and it also is kind of the podium of the building, right? That tall retail expression. We always like to say every building's got a great base, a body, and a top, so that tall retail floor is special. And retail likes tall spaces, whereas parking levels do not need the same height. So using that tall retail space, we can get 2 levels of parking behind it. And that's a clever way to get more parking and make it efficient. Floors 2 through 7 are apartments, and those apartments are, we have about 196 apartments, 197 apartments. The apartments range from 900 square feet to about 1,400 square feet, and I know he's kind of going through the deck. We'll go through it a little bit more. And then the top 2 floors are, the 8th and 9th floor are 27 condominiums. Those will be for sale. And the condominiums are 1,800 to 2,500 square feet. We actually have separate lobbies for each of the uses as well. The apartments have their own lobby, and that's off of Maple. And the condominiums have their own lobby, and that's off of Maple. And they also have their own elevators for those uses. We are going to request, and you can see this in the proposal, for 2 additional floors, the 8th and 9th floor, and actually for part of the 6th floor in the MU5. And that's allowed by ordinance. So in the MU5, you're allowed 5 stories. We're going to ask for a 6th floor, 1 floor in that area. And then when we get to the MU7, which is the majority of the site, it allows 7 floors, but you get 2 additional bonus floors if you meet 2 of the criteria. And the 2 that we're proposing are the mixed-use project, because we are truly a mixed-use project, and then that we provide a public parking component for the additional floors of square footage that we're adding. And we're adding about 60,000 square feet of additional floor area. And so that requires 201 additional parking spaces. Just big picture, not to dwell too much on the numbers, but parking by ordinance in the residential requires 260 spaces. The retail will require 55 spaces, for that's 315. And if we add the 201 spaces, on top of that, we're at 516 spaces required. There is a table in the deck that has all of this. It's a busy little table, but it's got a lot of factual information. And I'm not expecting you to dwell on this. I'm just trying to give the high level.
You're dealing with lawyers here, you know, we're not.
I know you like the detail.
We're not numbers guys.
Oh, you like the detail. On our proposal, so 516, these are kind of big picture numbers to think about that we would need if we parked all of it 100%, including the bonus floors. We're providing 444 spaces right now, so we're a little bit short, 72 spaces short from what's required. Now, we're going to continue to still work on it. We've got a few ideas maybe where we can find some additional spaces, and I'm going to talk about other things that we're looking at. But in the big picture, we're only about 14% short of the target. And, you know, I know the planning board has the discretion to waive up to 50% of the parking. We're not talking about anything like that, and we're going to continue to do the best we can to get as much parking as we can. And I would also say that in our proposal, we will always maintain the 201 public spaces. We want to have those spaces available to the public. And the way we're going to do this is we've hired, obviously, as you know, when we come in for a big project like this, we will have a CIS and along with the preliminary site plan. And with the CIS, there'll be a traffic study. And Stonefield Engineering is doing our traffic study. They will also do a shared parking analysis, and they've already started looking at it. I see Brian raising his eyes. A shared parking analysis where they will evaluate different parking demands at different times for the different uses. And this is a common methodology used in mixed-use buildings especially, because as you could imagine, the residential components have different peak demands than the commercial components. For example, the residential components have 100% peak demand overnight. However, during the day, their peak demand is only 50%. And these are statistical information that they'll show you. And you could imagine people are going to school, they're going to work, they're going to a job, they're going out and visiting. But at night, when they come home and they go to sleep, their peak demand is 100%. But during the day, it's only 50. And the retail is sort of at different times as well, because the retail peaks in the early afternoon, and then it still stays fairly busy until maybe the early evening. But after that, there's no retail parking that is really needed. So Stonefield will do a very good analysis, and when we're here with you for the CIS and the pre-application or the preliminary site plan, they will show you all the days of the week, all the times of the day, and what the requirements are. And on a preliminary analysis that they've already done for us, we are able to sufficiently park this site and maintain public parking. And we think we will be able to meet the spirit of the ordinance. And we think you will agree when you see it. And as I said, we will continue to work on tweaking the plan. In fact, we've even hired a parking consultant, Rich and Associates, to help us refine the garage plans and the underground parking to just, you know, with their expertise to find nuances of you can get a few more spaces here, you can get another space here. We're going to look at maybe opportunities to do some more tandem spaces. We have very few tandem spaces where one's behind the other. In fact, almost all of our spaces are single-loaded, which is the best way to do it. But it's not uncommon to have tandem spaces in mixed-use buildings like this. Not to mention, there's the municipal parking around us. I mean, we have street parking around us. Across the street, there's 33 spots where Kroger is in the front, that right away, right there. We know that there's the parking system of streets, and then the garage across, the Peabody garage is not that far. And now we have kind of a nice improved crosswalk at Forest. You know how they've added a light at Forest to make that crosswalk better. So we've got 2 crosswalk opportunities. We've got Maple and Woodward, and then we've got the Forest and Woodward crossing. Nick, maybe if we want, we can go through the deck, and I could maybe talk about the drawings. And I'm going to use this pointer here. This is just the first page, and you can see this is just a massing model. We're looking at the way the building is massed, and we're going to show you a few more examples, but we're looking at big retail storefronts, punch window openings on the upper units. We've got the top 2 floors have to step back. Each of the top floors steps back 10 feet, which is required by ordinance. And we've got a very nice amenity space out on this. It's a 2-story amenity space in the building. And you could appreciate that these larger high-end apartment and condo developments, the amenity spaces are really premium and they're important. And it's almost like hospitality, like you go to a very fine hotel where the lobbies are very dramatic, great workout rooms, spa facilities, meeting areas, things like that. And then you could see that the building is sort of U-shaped, but with this extra wing here. This is the MU 5 portion. It's a little bit lower, and then there's an active courtyard in the middle of the building that a lot of units look onto, and then we've got a rooftop pool up on top of that 6th floor right there. And you know, one of the things that we really thought about a lot is we know Woodward's a busy street. It's busy all day long, right? Day and night. And so sound and soundproofing is going to be important in this building. The interior courtyard is really an important space. And we're going to have just as many units on the interior court, if not more, on the interior court that look down into this unit, which will be a quieter space and a more tranquil space for the residents as well. This bottom drawing just shows the site. I think everybody knows the site. That's Woodward and that's Maple. And the site's about 67,000 square feet. We can skip this one. That's the table that Brian, I think, is going to study in more detail. This is the lowest level of parking, and you can see it's fully parked. We call that B2. It's 152 spaces. We've got a speed ramp on the side. We do have to provide some underground storm detention, so there will be a vault down here that we'll be working on with our engineers for underground storm detention. The elevators and stairs all go down to all the levels through the whole building. Then the next slide is really what we call B1. That's the level just below the 1st floor, and there's 157 spaces there.
Can I just interrupt you?
Yes,
as long as
sure.
we're at this point, when these drawings say market rate parking, is that what you refer to as public?
Yeah, it's probably not the best terminology, but yes, I think we're, in our mind, we're saying this is the public side.
Okay, thanks.
Correct. Okay. The next slide is the 1st floor. This is, I think, an important slide because a lot of thought has gone into how do you approach the building, how do visitors come to the building, how do residents come to the building. So you can see, obviously, we've got Woodward here, we've got Maple up here, and we have an alley over here, a public alley. So one of the opportunities is off of Woodward, we create a nice approach right here that is both pedestrian and vehicular. And that's kind of like a big statement. It's an opening right through the whole building that brings you into the project and into the garage. Additionally, we have another approach off of Maple that allows for 2 ways. And again, you can go into the speed ramps here or park. And then a third approach is off of the alley, and that people can come in this way as well. So there's 3 ways to approach the building. I think the big statement is right here on the front facade of the building, and that is kind of almost like a gateway entry. Our lobbies for the apartments and the condos are off of Maple, and the elevators are there. And then all the sort of supplementary spaces, mail rooms, package rooms, things like that. And then we've got retail spaces here in the purple on the corner of Woodward. And then further down on Woodward, we've got additional retail spaces. We've got some loading zones or loading docks here, and we've got an elevator and stairs for loading and deliveries as well. that will take you all through the tower. One thing that is going to be important is, for us, is the way we approach when residents come in or people come in to pick up people or drop people off. This area on the first floor is really, even though we're in the garage, is a premium space, and we're going to want to make sure it's really beautifully detailed, special paving, nice finishes, good lighting, because that is somewhat the front door for people who come in by vehicle. If we go to the next slide, this is that mezzanine level of parking. This is that, again, second level of parking that we'll use right in here. And then, of course, what you're seeing is the tall storefronts over here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this mezzanine level of parking because there's an interesting element that we have to discuss and approach, but we'll come back to that. Now we're starting to get into the residential floor. So this is our second floor, and you can see the building has this sort of U shape all the way around. There is an opening in here that allows us some total vision. This is a space that has the building amenities as well, and part of the amenities, part of this is 2 stories and part of it is 1 story. And that's like, as I said, there'll be some meeting rooms, areas for some dining or private dining. There will be fitness areas, some spa areas, things like that. And then recreation areas. And then, of course, this is our courtyard space that will be beautifully landscaped, some outdoor areas, fire pits, fountain, etc. And we'll be programming that and detailing it in more detail. You'll notice that one of the elements of our building is that we step the building back 10 feet in the middle because it is a big, long facade, and we feel like, you know, from an urbanistic standpoint and architecturally, it's nice to step the building back to give some relief. If we go to the next slide, this is, you're just seeing now additional floor space on the 3rd level, and this is that 2-story amenity space, and that's going to be really dramatic from both outside and inside because it'll be almost floor-to-ceiling glass. You'll look into the building, and when you're in the building, you'll be looking out onto the excitement of Woodward neighborhood. Levels 4 and 5 and 6 are pretty much all the same. They have units, and then thank you, Nick. And then when we get to the 7th level is where we get to this other rooftop amenity, and you can see over here it says MU5 and MU7. The majority of this site, all of this is in the MU7. And this one portion is in the MU5. So this is the last floor, the 6th floor will be the last floor in MU5. And then this is our outdoor roof deck where we'll have a pool. We'll have all the elements around the pool. We'll have some pergolas, fire pits, and then there'll be access to bathrooms and showers and things like that as well for the pool, which is required by code when you have a pool. And then if we go up again, we get to the next floor, and this is the first condominium floor, so it's level 8. And the condominiums have their own smaller amenity space for the condo owners on this floor. And you can see these units are larger, and of course there's no units over here anymore. And then when we get to the top floor, the 9th floor, the building steps back again another 10 feet, and we get condos up here as well. You get to the next level, or the next drawing, I'm sorry. This is just a schematic section of the building, and this would be the street level. And you can see there's 2 levels of underground parking in the gray, and then you get that tall retail floor, and then you get the 2 floors of parking behind it, and then you get the amenity space. That's like part of it's 2 stories, part of it's 1 story. Then you get the residential units and the condo units. On this side, you're seeing residential units, and then we pull deck up on top. And then just moving on, this is again now just, we're still obviously designing the building, but we're trying to emphasize the massing, the verticality. The apartments have punched openings. In our mind, this is, from an urban standpoint, we feel like this should be a brick building. The base maybe will have stone, but the body of it will be brick. The top will be potentially brick or maybe other materials. It could be a stucco or a panel detail when we get up to the condos. Obviously, the condos have these beautiful terraces that wrap all the way around, so that's really dramatic. We're thinking maybe we would have small Juliet balconies for some of these units in the, on Woodward and Maple. And then there's another nuance to the site that on the Maple side is the right-of-way is wider at the corner, and then as you go further back to the east, the building steps out, or the property line steps out. So we're allowing the building to step out, and it just sort of helps break that line a little bit. And this is the entry to the apartments. And if we, you know, we have the potential to have a restaurant in here, and if we do, we would put the outdoor seating or cafe seating on that wide right-of-way on Maple. It just makes sense to utilize that space. It's city right-of-way. It's never really going to get built on. I think maybe conceptually, a long time ago, there was thoughts that maybe Maple would get widened. I don't think that's going to be in the cards ever, but it is that excess property that is in a wide right-of-way. Just another element I should mention is right now, this parking is diagonal parking. What we really want to do is we want to widen the sidewalks and put trees here and make it parallel parking and still have a drive so that people can pull in or pull out. But we want to make the sidewalk and streetscape experience better and wider. So instead of that diagonal parking that you know, there's a lot of properties on Woodward that have that. It's not necessarily the best. At least parallel parking will be better. If we just look at some of the other views, this is just kind of coming around the building here. You can see that big opening. This is going to be very dramatic, and that'll be an important approach, and we'll have special materials going into that. This is the alley view, and there'll be an entry to the garage here. There'll be loading docks over here, and this is all retail. So the retail will be tall storefronts with nice urban canopies, and that's that corner expression that wraps around on Maple for the amenity space. And here, this is a view of Maple. If you were almost over the top of Kroger, this is what you'd be seeing. This is all that amenity space, retail storefronts, residential lobby, condominium lobby, and then here you're seeing the building as it steps back and then it steps down, and you're seeing that full rooftop area over here, which is better and a little bit lower. And this is kind of a bird's eye view looking down from the roof, but it's important to see the courtyard and then this pool area. By the way, on the east side of that portion of the building, we are proposing residential units on the upper floors. We've actually set our building back 10 feet on the first floor and 15 feet on the upper floors. And we recognize that there's the potential for a future development if somebody were to want to purchase these buildings and propose a bigger building. So we're being very careful about setting our building back so that we have daylight and open space. And if somebody does purchase this building and takes it down and builds a larger, let's say another mixed-use building, for instance, they would set their building back 10 feet because they would have to put windows in it. And that's required by code. And so we'll have at least 25 feet between the buildings. And a good example of that is what we did at RH and our 370 Brown project. We got this beautiful via, and if it's nicely landscaped and you've got windows on both sides, it could be a very nice space. So we're really trying to think ahead of, you know, these buildings are for hundreds of years, and so what's going to happen as the city matures and grows. I think that may be the last slide. Is that it?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we normally allow 15 minutes for these, so we're going to have to
I'm
move
sorry.
along. So
It's a big project.
I have a couple comments, and then I'm going to open it to other members. First of all, Rich, as the consultant or the people that are going to do the parking structure, I've known them for 40 years. They're terrific. They did Birmingham Point, so that's a plus.
Thank you.
I think the biggest problem you have is the shortage of parking spaces. You may know, we just declined an opportunity to approve a building that was 49 short, roughly 50 short, on South Woodward. So I think you need to work on that a little bit, whether it's, and I realize economics plays into this. One way to do is increase the size of some of the very small units to reduce the parking requirement. On the other hand, I do like the component where you have public parking, which of course is
Important.
generally non-existent in the Triangle District. So
Right.
we'll look at it. We don't have authority. You'd have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals in any event if you're short. So we could approve it, but I think I'm not positive. And we have a precedent here that we're dealing with,
Sure.
Victor, that Birmingham Point had enough parking spaces on site. So that presents a challenge for us. Those are my thoughts. I'm not definitively concluded anything, but I think you need to work on the parking spaces, and I think you know that. Others, Stuart, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree about the parking thing, but I think there's a lot of, if you look at it a total package, I think there's a lot that you've done here
Yeah.
that you didn't have to do here that feeds in maybe better than other projects we've seen for this site into our master plan and things that are also important to us other than places for our four-wheel friends. So I did have one question, and just only because I'm curious, what would be a double-level amenity? I'm thinking climbing wall or
Probably a fitness area, which will have big windows, and maybe part of the, just a gathering space to really take in all of the views of Woodward and downtown. I mean, that's going to be a unique perspective up there.
So just to make it more grand.
That's right.
There's nothing.
That's right. That's right. Maybe we will do a climbing wall. It's another amenity.
Well, as we've said before, this is the most important site in southeast Michigan. So great that you're here.
Why do you restrict it to southeastern Michigan? It's the whole
Well, the Wall
damn-
Street
the
Journal-
world.
the
It's
Wall
the
Street
whole damn
Journal
state
can
of
give us-
Michigan.
Can give us the nation. I get that. Another elephant in the room, apart from parking, MDOT. You're on, Michigan 1. They're going to have a say in what is going to happen along there. Have you had any discussions so far? Or are you keeping that powder
Well,
dry?
We know we have to address MDOT. Now, obviously, you're talking about that right-of-way.
Yep.
So right now, they have more diagonal parking. We're not changing the approaches on either end of it, and we're not changing the island that separates Woodward from the drive aisle. What we're talking about changing is taking those diagonal spaces and making them fewer and making them parallel so they're not sticking out as much. And therefore, when they don't stick out as much, the extra space I'd like to put back in, or we'd like to put back in, is make the sidewalks in front of the building wider. And to put some street trees in there as well to soften the building. We have a very large building, and we want to treat it with the same care and beauty that our downtown has done, right, along Woodward and Maple. And, I mean, we've got one of the prettiest downtowns and the most walkable downtowns, as we all know.
Second quick point, SMART. They've got bus stops on both
Yes.
sides, Maple and Woodward. They just moved one of them a couple of days ago, I think. You got to bear that in mind as well,
Yes,
because it's an
we do.
amenity.
We have been thinking about that.
It's an important facility for this
And
area.
we feel like we've got good room to build.
And a final point, for those long enough, where you've got your cafe seating, if I remember correctly, that's exactly where Barclay Inn had their restaurant or coffee place. Am I
did,
right?
yeah.
Am I right?
You are right.
Yeah, so we're coming back. I can see there was a Barclay Inn, a bit like development down in
Barclay.
Danny's building, Anyway, enough.
Duncan?
Personally, I really like the scale and the appearance of the rendering. Couple questions. On the corner of Woodward and Maple, those first 3 stories, which include the retail and the amenity, is that a glass? Is that all like a glass curtain? Is that?
The retail space is almost 20 feet tall.
Okay.
So it's almost all glass, and then there's steel canopies. And then you see that second, so that's that first 20 feet. Then you see the other two, there it is.
Yeah.
This level and this level.
Yeah.
That's the 2 stories of the amenity space that will wrap all the way around the corner. So it really sets up kind of an important element on the corner, and I think it helps differentiate the building as something special happening at the corner. as
That's
well.
all glass.
That's all glass.
It'll look nice.
Yeah.
Another question, that 10-foot setback on the Woodward side for the second floor units, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 units?
All of these are set back 10 feet.
No, down on the second floor, right above
Oh,
the
just
entry.
these.
Is that a balcony or is that just a
You know,
space?
we haven't shown it as a balcony, but I actually thought about it, and we haven't talked about it, but it is an opportunity to create a terrace for those second floor units.
It'd be a feature for those, yeah.
Selling point.
We maybe need to hire him as a consultant, Sam. You just added a,
Conflict of interest.
Duncan's not for sale, at least for the next 2 hours.
I like it a lot.
thank you, thank you.
So beautiful, as always. Really thoughtful planning on the first floor, 3
Right.
ways in and out is great, as we all know how busy this is. The thought of having the drop-off lane internally as not to have that condition going on Woodward or Maple, thank you. You know, thought obviously put into package drop-off and all those kind of things that cause congestion. So, great. I really look forward to seeing what you bring us about the parking. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. And honestly, I don't think if it didn't work for you, you would want to build this
That's right.
building. Because I know you mentioned there is other parking sort of around, but I mean, it's not really convenient to expect people from this building to walk from across Woodward. So of course, you're going to have to make sure it works for you, for your users, for your owners, because it just wouldn't make sense otherwise. So I really look forward to those
you.
numbers.
And the numbers do work for us right now. But
Yeah.
we're going to demonstrate it for you with the shared parking analysis. I think that will be eye-opening.
Yeah, and I appreciate you proposing to sacrifice the diagonal parking on Woodward to give us better streetscape. And I know you're losing spots there by doing it, but it's such a benefit to us.
think so.
Yeah.
So, you know, thank you for that. And I love the smaller unit sizes. I mean, I don't know what that means for rent.
Well,
And you probably don't yet either, I suppose, but maybe.
well, they're
it's-
working on the pro formas. We know what rents are generally in the market today, especially for new properties. Unfortunately, I mean, these projects are expensive. This property is expensive, but fortunately, the rents can support the project if it's all done right. And everybody does their work.
Well, my point in that is that we hope for some smaller units,
units, yeah, we do.
units that'll attract young professionals or, you know,
Young people.
smaller. We have too many 4,000 square
I
foot
agree.
condos that are only affordable to very few people. So this is really great, and I would not like to see them turn into a bunch of 2,000 square foot units to fix the parking. So I hope
That's not our
we
goal.
can work that all out and sort of keep what you've proposed because I think it can be really great. So
Thank you.
thanks.
So like my colleagues, I like the massing, I like I'm assuming that the materials will be high quality and the
course.
glass won't be cheap yellow reflective. But the challenges from the planning point of view, and so the things I'm hoping you folks will think about and address, fall for me into 2 categories. One is parking. We talked about parking at length. It's not a surprise that that's an issue. This is an area that's congested on all 4 sides. So, you know, when you said, oh, even people can just go park at Kroger and walk across the street, or park at the Park Street structure and walk across the street, I'm not sure how practical that is.
I agree.
But again, I'm not prejudging, I'm just telling you that that's something I'm sure we're all going to be looking at very closely. In connection with parking, I'm going to be wanting to understand very clearly how many times we count how many spaces. So just by way of example, and don't hold these aren't the right numbers, I
Yeah.
understand that. But if you need 200 public spaces and 200 residential spaces, it seems to me those are probably not the same 200 spaces.
That's right.
In my mind. So, segregating that, and I don't think the drawings quite do it yet, but again, this is conceptual. In terms of access, one of the things that was an element of controversy between the planning board and the last developer to make a proposal here was left turn out of the Maple side. Usually in those circumstances, we win. Not always, but, so be sensitive to that, be prepared to address that.
Left turn out.
Left turn out.
Left turn out of the structure.
Out of the
on-
structure.
Onto westbound Maple,
Yes.
crossing
Yes, I
eastbound
understand.
traffic.
And I know,
It backs up there.
Congested
That's a-
intersection.
Yeah, that particular stretch is, kind of backs up. I forget what level of service that intersection is, but that's an item of
Okay.
some interest. Likewise, not just the MDOT question of parking, and, I agree, parallel parking in Woodward's better than the angled parking, but what happens to the traffic flow as people try and move out of the right-hand lane into the, whatever you call that MDOT area that's, not travel, but where people go and park, that when you change.
Slip Street.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so when a building like this, with its density and its load for cars, what impact is that going to have on the safety of traffic, kind of pulling into that slip street?
Okay.
I'm hoping the traffic consultant will look at that. One of the problems that I see throughout the Woodward landscape is the conflict between folks, like in this case, coming out of the alley, wanting to turn on to Woodward, folks coming up, in this case, north on Woodward, wanting to move into the slipstream, that kind of conflict. That's something to think about.
Okay.
And address. Likewise, one of the things that we did not resolve, and hope have your environmental folks look at it in the CIS, this site had, if I recall correctly, in prior years, there were some hazardous materials that were on the site, and I can't remember if it was a gas station or a dry cleaner or whatever, to the point where again, by memory, a phase 2 was something that we had wanted to see. So have them, as they do that, kind of look at that, see if there's, if there is a phase 2 that's required or recommended,
Okay.
how that will sort itself out. But in general, it's given economics, it's it's a nice solution to a difficult site. The last comment is that when the question of what I've referred to as counting spaces for different purposes, that impacts whether you meet the quote, public parking requirement for the bonus stories. So keep that, it's both a do you meet the ordinance in terms of the number of spaces, as well as are you qualified for 2 more spaces, 2 more stories.
Right. And that's why we've said we're always going to try to maintain 200 public spaces for the public, for those bonus floors. So the shortfall, I guess, is on the required parking a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's that's the way maybe that we were looking at it. And that's why we want to demonstrate that with the shared parking, there is sufficient parking for this project. Obviously, we would never, they would never tackle a project of this size and magnitude without that confidence that there is plenty of parking and a noteworthy public parking component that people can use.
Well, I mean, just, so it's kind of clear where we have to come from. It's not uncommon for a developer to say, your ordinance is somewhat out of date. And because of this, that, or the other thing, it really shouldn't be 100 parking spaces required, it should only be 75. And we, the developer, would never, underpark a building. All that's well and good. I have no doubt about that, but we are constrained by what the ordinance says,
course.
not by what the ordinance would say if it was smarter.
I agree. I would never say our ordinance is outdated, but I understand what you're saying, and again, when we lay this all out in the big picture, I
understand.
think we'll
Yeah.
take your comments and we'll address all of these items.
Naseem?
Nothing much to add, just to reiterate, very happy to see you folks involved in this, given the importance, the utmost importance of the site to the city and the visibility, so.
Thank you. If I can, I do want to mention two other things that I didn't say. Well, first of all, and Nick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I am under the impression that the planning board actually can waive up to 50% of the required parking by ordinance if we demonstrate that we meet certain findings and that we have sufficient parking and they feel comfortable. That it's not a Board of Appeals action, it's the planning board that has the authority.
That's right. And I was going to actually say before we ended that, in contrast, I think our ordinance was actually ahead of the curve and ahead of its time in adding things like that. It's obviously we've never used it because development's been really slow in the triangle.
Yeah.
A comparable sort of reduction that Victor's mentioning is the B3 stuff that we just did at 479, the mixed-use reductions. It's the same concept for the same spirit and intent, where you do have the power to reduce up to 50%, should you want to. Victor has said that they're not going to ask for 50%.
No.
It's just a tool in the toolbox that you could use should you find their arguments convincing.
Yeah, we understand. Any additional comments you have?
Can I mention two more things? if you
One
don't
other
mind?
thing? I'm
I won't take long. There is another nuance to this that I should mention. Remember we talked about that mezzanine of parking in the back behind the retail. There's that extra
Yeah.
floor of parking. In the two-story space, we got two levels. In the tall retail space, we got two levels of parking. By definition, this is a nuance of the building code versus the zoning ordinance. By definition of the building code, they may classify that extra level of parking as a floor, not a mezzanine. And if it's classified as a floor, we will need a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Visually, we're within all of the building heights. In fact, the tallest part is under the building height. If you look at the building, it's a 9-story building. This is like almost a hidden floor behind the storefront.
We understand.
Okay, so it's just something that's a nuance that,
We won't have jurisdiction on that. It's good.
no, you won't, but maybe if you
Yeah,
like it.
well, they always want to hear what we think.
Exactly, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
And then the last thing is, we probably will pursue, just to be totally transparent, we probably will pursue an economic development license for a liquor license, if we do have a restaurant. This certainly will qualify, and it would be a city commission issue.
You got the size, no question about that.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, and we really look forward to working with you. This is a really exciting project for us.
Exciting project for the city.
Yeah.
For the state. There you go.
For the whole state of Michigan,
Okay, thank you. Thanks
not
for your
just
time.
Southeast.
Sorry we took so much time.
Thank you.
Great work, guys.
Thank you.
Look forward to it.
Okay, we're going to move along. And now we go back to item K1, zoning ordinance update project consultant selection, and this is not a final selection, so I would point out to the public who may be listening that the retention of a consultant which has been authorized by the city commission, ultimately the city commission will make the decision as to which consultant will be hired. And so our role here is to make a recommendation. Let me go back and just highlight briefly that originally we sent out our RFPs. We obtained a couple of months ago 6 proposals. We, in the meeting in October, I think, reviewed 6 proposals. We then requested interviews in November of 4 entities: Osceola Levine, Kendrick East, Giffords, Webster, and McKenna. We interviewed all 4 entities at our November meeting. We agreed as a planning board that we would review not only the original submissions, but the results of the interviews, and come back in December with the hope, and I would say in my case, expectation, that we would recommend a single entity for approval by the city commission at whatever meeting they choose to consider it. Is that a fair statement of where we are? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then I have asked, and we didn't discuss it necessarily at the last meeting. I want to make a comment on the fact that we received 6 proposals, and I think, frankly, all of them were very good. And this has been a difficult process for all of us to consider these. But I want to flip that the other way to say that I think is a compliment to the city and the city planning department that we have this many really terrific proposals coming in, because these people would not choose to work in Birmingham unless they felt that the people we have in place, Nick, et cetera, et al., are qualified and competent to be able to guide the city through this process with them. So I think it's a compliment to the city and to the city staff that we have this many, what I view, outstanding proposals. I've asked Nick, because you all know, and we reviewed this, that the proposals were reviewed by a number of people within city administration. And I think it's appropriate, before we start finally discussing this, that we get the input of the city administration, because to date, we have not.
Yep.
So what say you, Mr. Dupuy?
Sure, and thanks.
On behalf of the city.
Thanks for your kind words as well. It's much appreciated. And so we did take it seriously. We considered it a directive that you wanted us to come today with a recommendation from city staff. So just to reiterate, the entire planning department reviewed it. 3 members of the building department and the entire city manager's office all reviewed everything we've got, from the proposals to the interviews. We then congregated, they scored them, evaluated them just as you did for the RFPs, and then we also congregated last Wednesday to talk about how the interviews went, go over the RFPs, both considerations. And what we came up with was, and I want to preface this very specifically because we felt exactly the same way you felt. And what a good fortune we have to have such a hard decision. We felt as though the consensus was that 2 rows to the top in the interview stage combined with their RFP responses, and ultimately it came down to details. And when it came to the details, we felt as though Housie Levine would be best suited for this project. A number of comments were made on what they feel could be a really good synergy between the project team and our team, their high-quality graphical approach, and their really interesting, I guess, unique analysis style using the GIS components, their attention to detail when it came to their RFP, but also their presentation and how they tailored those types of things, and a number of other things. What's also important, because frankly, this the second one that was very highly rated was Kendrick East, and a lot of their draw, not that they would not do a good job with the ordinance, but their Encode Plus platform is a huge draw. It's a really good, great program. We've got it already. So what's important to know, and what we discussed in our internal meetings, is that yes, we have it already, so we've kind of got that piece. Again, not that they would do a bad job or not just as good of a job, but to get the highest and best form of Encode Plus platform, it would still be an upcharge from what they propose in their cost proposal. And what Housie Levine said in the interviews is what they'll deliver whatever we want in whatever format we want. So what I did then, because cost is a consideration here that I admitted we didn't really factor into the RFP process the cost to upload to Encode. So all we really do with Encode is we pay an annual license fee of about $4,000. That's a maintenance type fee, a license type fee. And then we pay on occasion to update the ordinance here and there. We've paid as low as $44 to amend an ordinance and as high as almost $2,000. You can figure that that 2,000 figure was when we migrated our entire old ordinance into the Encode Plus platform. All that to say, very inexpensive. It's something we may be even to absorb now, even though we haven't really budgeted for it, which we do plan to. But so that, alongside of the Encode Plus higher level platforms, which we can still have access to, even if we don't go with Kendick East, we felt like we could have our cake and eat it too, and maybe have the best of both worlds. So for those reasons, oh, and also, by the way, we also love that Housley Levine is lumping the sign ordinance in there. That's in dire need of updates. So for all those reasons, that's what we chose. It was difficult. We spent about an hour in there talking about all of these, but ultimately, that's what we chose.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to pick at random comments from planning board members. I'm going to start with Dan Scher. He's probably not ready.
So I tend to agree with Nick in that, for me, when I looked at the whole ball of wax, there were two firms that were superior to the others. The two he mentioned, Kendick East and Housley Levine. I thought that McKenna and Giffords Webster were good, would do a good job, but they weren't quite as thorough or inspirational as I thought Kendick and Housley were. And I come at this also from the point of view of what we're trying to accomplish. Keep in mind, we're trying to align the zoning ordinance with the new master plan. We're not writing on a clean slate. We're not tearing everything up. We're not, kind of just making stuff up as we go along and saying, oh, here's a good idea, let's throw it in. I mean, this is, an alignment of some stuff that we've already, not some stuff, of a very detailed master plan that we spent literally years working on that had large amounts of community engagement. So the community is familiar with what we've done, what the city's done with the master plan, and should have a pretty good idea of what alignment would look like. That said, there are some, interesting and creative concepts in the master plan, and I think we, as a city, would benefit from national best practices assistance in adapting the zoning ordinance to, or aligning the zoning ordinance with the master plan. It's a close call for me between Kendick East and Housley Levine. I guess I felt at the end of the day a little bit more comfortable with Housley Levine, and I thought that's where my recommendation would land.
Thanks. Duncan?
I agree with you on the choice of Housley Levine. A couple points I had was, A, it conforms to budget. I like their emphasis on creative community engagement. Presentation a couple weeks ago was packed with information, examples, very detailed scope, clear in mission, and most eloquent. They cited a plethora of examples and awards and credentials, and include the sign standards. I like them the best.
Janelle?
So I liked Kendick East very much, and I liked McKenna as well. It's interesting how different perspectives there are. When we had the interviews, I was especially impressed with Kendick East's approach. They did not come in and reiterate their resume. They didn't talk about all their awards that they'd listed when they sent in their qualifications. But what they did talk about was what they could do for us specifically. And they provided this packet with a bunch of information to take home, to read, that, again, talked about what they would do for Birmingham. They had very impressive other projects that they highlighted that they sent to us that we could go, we could look at, and we could work through the ordinances that they had previously written. Whereas I didn't feel like Housel offered us that the same way. When I went to look at Housel's many other projects, and there were lots of them, I struggled to find very good examples that were similar to our city that did a very good presentation as Kendig did in theirs. And I'll say for McKenna as well, and why I liked them second best, is their written work, their presentation of ordinances that they have done were so easy to work with. And I really think that's going to be that's so important. When you crack one of these ordinances, you're looking for something in particular, it needs to make sense. And Kendig does it for sure. And McKenna does it well also. Like Dan said, they're not reinventing anything. They're not doing what we did for the master plan. Rather, they're bringing all of this together and looking at the master plan and using the master plan to put our ordinance in order. So when I looked at the detail that Kendig gave us, I was just really, really impressed. And even little things like, it's funny, I came back to my notes late last week in preparation for this meeting, and I pulled out all the papers and all the information that was given to us on the night of the interviews. And what I found was what I think was either 3 or 4 packets of information. Kendig's and McKenna's were labeled with their letterhead on every page they gave us. And then I had a whole bunch of other information from, I'm not sure which one, where they neglected to put their name on the information they gave us at the presentation. And I found that funny because that's the kind of detail we need when they're putting together this ordinance for us, but yet it was omitted on something as simple as that. And Kendig and McKenna hit the nail on the head for me. Kendig first, McKenna second.
Nasim?
Yeah, I was surprised at how much of an impact the interviews had on me personally, just in terms of how it sort of reconfigured my preferences going in. Maybe I shouldn't have been, as someone who does writing and then speaking for work, that second part is really important. And so for me, my top 2 were Housel Levine and Kendig Keys, in that order. I was really impressed, I think, with Housel, the team that they brought, and the creativity. I thought their answers were especially impressive. At least to me, they did not seem canned, and that was not to disparage anyone else, but it was, I think, a lot of thought had gone into a lot of those elements where some of the other folks, I probably could have guessed how they were going to answer the question, and it wasn't super satisfying. It was maybe a little bit surface level. But those 2, for me, far and away, they were my preferred choices. And then in terms of picking between the 2, obviously, the group's thought, but I think staff, their input cannot be underestimated, because they're going to do so much of the heavy lifting.
Stuart?
I agree with the point made earlier that this isn't a complete rewrite. This isn't like wonderful work of fiction or anything like that. There's a lot of mechanics in this, and not totally, but it's it's got to work. And I guess to me, we always talk about Hinsdale, Illinois, and the fact that one of these firms is actually located there. I thought was kind of ironic, but I guess the thing that pushes me one direction is the fact that the guy that they're going to have to work with, the department they're going to have to work with, the administration they're going to have to work with, is kind of leaning that way, and that we already maybe have some of the framework that'll work well. So I guess I'm leaning towards House Zeal.
Okay, I guess we got Robin to go.
Yeah, well, I think you've all said some really important things. I did a bit of a deeper dive because there was some question about delivery. What will they deliver to us, and what will we be sitting here looking at the end of this process? When you get through the Gantt chart, what do we have, and what are we expecting to see? So I went to each of them in turn, and I was really incredibly impressed. If you remember, I think it was Giffords came in and Jill said, we're going to do Zoning 101 and educate the public. And I wasn't looking for that, but what I did find in Household Levine was, at the very end, they're going to do us like a storybook. They are suggesting that they will put together a sort of a, what's the word they use? If I can find it in here.
Is it a story map?
Story map, absolutely. A story map about how they got to their conclusion. And they would give this to all participants, put it on their website, explain the stages that were taken to reach the final document that we would then recommend to the Commission to adopt. I thought that was pretty interesting, because I thought it keeps the engagement process, not just at the beginning, but through the process and up and until the very end. So that was one thing that I really liked. I was very impressed by their conversations, Household Levine's conversation and writing about GIS, because that is the basis, that's the platform on which all of our work is now done, all of it. And if it doesn't fit to that, then things are tricky. And I think they persuaded me that they would work with the staff and with other techs in the city to make sure that their production fits with the platforms that we've got here. And I think that's terribly, terribly important. I know it's not what we want to have driving this process, a bit like, driving developments like that on the basis of parking, which is not the most important thing, but it's very important. It's the same with GIS. It is unbelievably important as to what we do and how we see it and how we collect our data, and it's only going to continue. So for these very detailed reasons, I reconfirmed my feeling that Household Levine was the way we should go.
Your thoughts on Kendrick East?
Really good. Their presentation was excellent. I had concerns, I did. I thought I've forgotten the guy's name.
President?
Brett or Steve Sizemore?
Steve.
Sizemore?
I don't know how many hours in the day that man has, because he had 7 live projects. 7 at this one stage, and that scared the heck out of me. I thought that's a very difficult. I actually asked a question, and we got the answer. We'll cope and all the rest, but that worried me a bit. But they're a good team. They are a very good team with good and some very good reviews, and they're doing Bloomfield Hills.
Yes.
Next door. So that's pretty interesting. But at the end of the day, I come down to the Household Levine with one modest discussion point. Maybe we don't bring it up here, but they've talked about 2 organizations, ZPAC and ZTEC. I'm not sure we need to burden ourselves with lots of steering committees and advisory committees. I don't know how other people feel, but modestly, I think we've got a pretty damn good board here.
Yeah.
And I think we can have that conversation, with providing Mr. Scheer doesn't have a heart attack,
Why would I have a heart attack?
I need your detailed knowledge without going down, setting up these committees. Could staff maybe comment on that to me?
Yeah, and forgive me, I just put it away. Let me open it real quick. Because I think one of them is optional, and I thought for sure to myself that the optional one is unnecessary for some of the reasons that you said. But the initial one, I didn't think that I had any problems with regardless of,
That's ZTEC.
I think that's the ZPAC, the Zoning Policy Advisory Committee, which,
I'm already confused.
so ZPAC is basically made of what you said, some commissioners potentially, planning board members and city staff, kind of specialists in the zoning area. The ZTAC, I believe, is when they started to add on business leaders and development professionals and other types of things that
And Dan?
I think we can engage in other ways.
Okay.
So I think we agree with what you're saying. The optional one costs more money, so we weren't going to really go there. But the ZPAC, I think, is what you're getting, what you're suggesting anyways. That's where we were on that.
So
Can I make one more?
that's my opinion.
Yeah.
So one of the other things, when I was looking at their website again,
Who's they?
Halcyon Levine, sorry.
Okay.
They have a thing called Euclid HL. The lawyer, property lawyer in me recognizes the reference to the seminal zoning case from the 20s, I think it was. But in any event, it appears to me to be an AI tool that would kind of combine with the zoning ordinance as redone, and you could like ask it a question, how high can my house be? And it'll generate an answer and a reference, so you don't have to, if you're the average person, you don't have to start flipping through this big, long ordinance that who knows how to use them. It gives you a starting place. That looked like a pretty nice feature.
Yeah. Okay, so before I make comments, is there anybody online that, I can't tell?
No.
Okay, so we don't have any, this is the opportunity for the public to make a comment, if the public cares to comment. And I don't see anybody that cares to comment. So I'll give you my thoughts.
Before you go, can I ask one question to make sure you come last? You talked about the comparison of cost. Did you look at Halcyon Levine in terms of what additional cost there might be, and
sure.
was it an issue for you and your colleagues in the city?
Right, it was a consideration. So at a surface level, both of them, that their base cost, I call it, with everything that's included, not extra, is right on the money, about 199-ish.
Right.
Which is technically under budget, just barely. So
They knew that.
Halcyon Levine does have some add-ons that,
Yeah.
the community engagement dashboard, things like that. For nominal costs, that dashboard's like $4,000. Maybe we like to do it, maybe not. Maybe once they tell us a little more about it, we'll decide. But Kendick Keast, if I recall correctly, I'm going to dig it out here, I think didn't have anything in their actual project cost table. Oh, I gotta find it. But throughout their project approach or project, they just had an additional meeting charge. So it's a little more unclear in terms of Kendick Keast, what extra, if anything. But if you go through the project approach, that's where you see the enhanced on-code stuff. That's an additional cost. That's where we saw that.
That's what
And that's how we figured that either whichever way we go, if we want that, it's an additional cost. So
Okay, good.
Well, I would offer comment. I think I'm cognizant of the fact that McKenna has worked in the city extensively, and to some extent Giffords also. So I recognize that and think it's important. I did, however, conclude the same as most of us. Originally, I had Kendick Keast, frankly, ranked 1, and Halcyon Levine ranked 2. But I'm not a real property lawyer, and I'm not a planning person, and I don't deal with the zoning ordinance the way some of you do. So I came into this saying I would be amenable to either of those two entities, Kendick Keast or Halcyon Levine, depending on what the city administration said, if it was really down to those two. So I'm inclined, based on the recommendation of the city and the comments generally here, with the exception of one of our members, to go with Halcyon Levine. And one comment we haven't made, and I have to say the most enthusiastic person in the entire presentation, all four of them, was from Halcyon. I mean, he was chafing to get on board and return to the great state of Michigan, where he was born. And I thought that was a commitment that was important to me. I didn't see that same level of commitment from Kendig from the top of the house. Maybe it would show, particularly in light of the person who would be in charge, as busy as that person is, but I thought that was important and significant. So I'm taking a poll here, and I think the only one who's out of sorts with this is you. You know?
I'm not really out of sorts with it. I mean, I think they're all fantastic.
I do, too.
And I don't think we have a bad choice here. And
That's the theme.
I think the thing that, I think I'd like to see it go to Kendig, but, you know, I think staff's opinion is especially important because you guys are going to be doing all the work.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
so, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you'll have a unanimous
Oh, wow.
vote, I think, here tonight.
Okay, well, I think all four, I repeat, I think all four submissions, it was important for me to get such outstanding submissions. I think I think with any of the four, we could have gotten this done, frankly. So it's a hard choice. I know our two local entities are probably going to be disappointed, but they're both terrific companies, and at least one of them has been significantly involved in Birmingham for the last few years. So I think there's one benefit when we do this every 30 or 40 years. And I don't know how long it's been since we've done the zoning redo.
Maybe
25?
longer.
Yeah.
Like this.
Maybe a little national perspective would be good, not that the two local entities don't have perspective multi-state, but certainly the two out-of-state entities have much more national experience. It's just a fact of maybe size or length of service, concentration in this area. So I guess I would entertain a motion, unless there's any reason for further discussion. There is a suggested resolution, is there not?
It's on page 20, on page 4 of the packet.
And that the planning board recommends the city commission select blank for purposes of performing a comprehensive zoning ordinance update. So I would entertain a motion as to the recommendation of the city commission of an entity. Is there a motion?
Looking for where it is.
Page 4 at the bottom of the
Page
page
four.
there.
Page 4. Would somebody like to make a
you wanna do
motion? Go ahead.
Go on.
Duncan's
Go on,
gonna
Duncan.
be here.
Sure, I'll make the motion.
All right.
Go.
Shall I?
Go.
The planning board recommends that the city commission select Housia Levine for the purposes of performing comprehensive zoning ordinance update for the city in accordance with the specifications contained within Housia Levine's response to the city's request for proposals.
Is there a second to that motion? No second?
I'll second, sure.
A second by Mr. Boyle. Thought I'd lost control of the group here.
You have, Betty.
I have, from time to time, lost control of this group. So, comments on the motion before we, and to the public, any comments from the public on the motion? I don't see any. What was that?
Stuart's phone.
Somebody's phone? Maybe it was mine. I don't see the public on, so I will call the question. Let's do a roll call vote.
Duncan Curry,
Housia Levine, aye.
Robin Boyle,
Aye.
Stuart Jeffries,
Aye.
Daniel Sher,
Aye.
Janelle Boyce,
Yes.
Brian Williams,
Yes.
Missy Merman.
Yes.
Okay, I think that concludes that item. I want to thank the board personally for all the hard work that's gone into this. I know some of you have spent a lot of time looking into this, and I think ultimately, as a result of that, we will be better prepared for the next phase coming up. We won't be approaching this blindly. Communications, item L2, any? You want to do project updates or anything?
I don't really have anything to comment on that. I do have two things that I could tell you about real quick in this section
Sure.
if you'd like. One being our next meeting on January 12th.
Yeah?
It's first meeting of the month, typically slated for study session type stuff. I don't expect that we'll have anything. But, including this, because I've got to get this to the commission. But there are some things floating around in the background with applications that I was curious if I need it. So I don't have anything planned now, but if I do end up needing it, would you all be willing to consider site plans on that day and amend the rules of procedure in the event that we need it?
Yes. And I think, I don't know when you plan to go to the city commission.
I would hope for January 12th.
Okay.
I think I said that.
Yeah, I was going to confirm the date.
And
The
what do you
planning board meeting
envision the
14th.
start of
Thank you.
the process being with, assuming the city commission agrees, Halsey Levine? Would there be an initial meeting with us? Is that the way you would
I would
suggest
almost
to
say
kick off?
certainly. Of course, it'll start internally with all the
Yeah.
table setting stuff, but yeah, we would bring them here.
Well, when do you expect the city commission to look at this?
Well, we'd love to do it on January 12th. That's the correct date. And forgive me, the planning board is 14. So
Okay.
we'll get back to that. But January 12th,
So
depending on what the.
we
commission
could
tells us.
suspend all of our rules of procedure for January and have House Seal in the second meeting in January if they're selected.
If you'd like, and if it works for everybody involved, yeah.
Well, we get into the spring, people leave and go to warmer climes, so I think the earlier we get them in here and the quicker we get started, I would be more comfortable, so.
Both
If
is
we can
good
get
for
them
me,
in
too.
at the end of January, if the city commission agrees with us, then let's shoot for that. In that case, let me make a suggestion, and that there's somebody make a motion that we have the combined meetings, both in the first and second meetings in January, which gives us the flexibility to consider both the study session and site plans at both meetings.
That would be super helpful.
Is there a motion?
Sure.
The motion maker, Daniel Scher.
I'll move that the rules of procedure for the two meetings in January 2026 be suspended such that either or both can be a meeting that considers both site plans and
Study sessions. Study session.
study sessions.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any dissent? Okay.
So that was number one, if I may.
Yeah,
Number two, I just wanted to tell you that we have a new employee. Lauren Milia, sitting there in the front row there, is our new planning intern. She started, what, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago at this point? Okay. It's on my birthday. She started on my birthday, so I got myself an intern as a birthday gift.
that was your
But
gift?
Wayne State Urban Planning Master's student.
Where?
Happy to have her. You'll see her more. I just wanted to show your face. No
Where?
speech, no nothing.
Where are you?
Wayne State.
Wayne State?
Where
Oh,
else?
that
Where
school?
else? Yeah, yeah.
I know.
Going to that well.
Yeah, yeah.
We're ringing
Well,
for all it's worth here.
Yeah, I know you are. You already know you are. Well, great contributor to the state, no
Yeah, so
question
you'll
about it.
You'll see Lauren's face more, as well as Summer and Leah in the new year, so.
Okay. Well, thank all of you. This is our last meeting of the year. I think Scott will be in touch with respect to luncheon plans. I'm not going to usurp that role for him. I've done everything else in the last 3 months for him. So he can plan the lunch. But I want to thank the planning department Again, I stated at the start of the meeting, I think kudos to all of you. We wouldn't be embarking on this project without a high confidence in your abilities to get us through it. And so, happy holidays to all of you. And is there any other business? I can say this for the last time in 2025, meeting adjourned.